So I'm back for the afternoon session. I'm targeting buy side liquidity, uh, specifically buy side formed after 10 o'clock, which is here. So in my mind, this would be best case scenario, this high. But for an easy objective, I'm shooting for this high here. It's a bullish S&T on NQ at this low. ES took this low here. Just buy a little bit. We're just about into the 1150 macro. It doesn't necessarily need to go right away. Right now, I'm kind of just watching this order block to see, is it going to hold this? There's also a really small inversion for value gap here. But right now, I'm just trying to see, does it want to hold this order block or does it want to come below this low one more time? I'll go to the daily. This yellow line is the midpoint of this wick. And then this daily for value gap is the next area I'm watching. It could meander in here and continue doing this up until 12:30. And then 12:30 could start the move for the 10 o'clock liquidity that was generated. So this would be the earliest that I would expect it to move higher. It doesn't have to go right now, but I figured I would start watching it about this time. ES has really clean buy side here at 10 o'clock. NQ not so much because it took out this high. But I think this high for an easy objective is pretty reasonable to expect. These highs as well. Really like that ES left this buy side up here, but I'm not shooting for that right now. It could be that they are generating a bearish sentiment leading up to FOMC because they've left a lot of buy side above the market. So it could be that they tank it today and then they use Tuesday and Wednesday's morning session to accumulate price down here. So smart money can accumulate longs at a discount. And then it could be that they use FOMC to send it back up into the range. So I don't think I'm going to be expecting these highs until after FOMC. But this, I think, is a nice objective to reach for right now. I would like to see it displacement above this inversion for value gap. It's been using it bearishly here. I think if it got some sort of sweep, maybe we hold this midpoint, sweep these lows, and then if it displaces above this, it would be nice to use that. I think it would be nice to use that to go long. If it's down a lot, I think it would make sense for the lunch macro to run buy stops for retail traders that have tightened stop losses to this pivot high. I think it would make sense to run them out. All of retail is short right now, so I do not want to be short. So this I would want to see act as an inversion as well. Lows are really clean right here. I really would have preferred to see it kind of wick through these lows and then do this. Technically, the body's closing above this validates it as inversion, but I really would have preferred to see these taken. And it is still very early in the lunch macro. Preferably 12:30 is what will run the buy side generated. But that's really nice. That's a nice reaction off that. There's a small order block here. Could stop price. Something else that might be interesting to note would be first hours opening range. It's very large. This high. I honestly don't know whether or not to use this candle or this candle, because this candle opened at 12:30, and this one closed at 12:30. So maybe this one. I think it's that one. There you go. So that's really nice. Right there. That's the first projection of that first hour's opening range. I'm going to get rid of the high and low, the midpoint, and just have the projections. It's really nice. Slow formed right around 11:30. 11:30 is right here. So that low did form kind of in that window right around 11:30. We are using this as inversion. That's pretty nice. I just don't like that these lows are down here. I don't want to have my stop loss at these lows. I'd prefer these lows be taken out. Because what it could do is come up to this inefficiency and then reject off of it back down. And then what that would do is form more buy side, assuming it left this high intact. And then closer to 12:30, we'll actually start the run for this high. Yeah, it could potentially reject off that. Just gonna measure risk because market's pretty volatile right now. Hypothetically, yeah. So risk is pretty high right now. So I want to be really selective with my entry. There isn't any displacement here, so I don't really trust that this is just going to continue going up to this high right now. I'd prefer that it stay in this range up until 12:30, and then at 12:30, maybe we'll get another swing low formed. Maybe we take this low out. And I'd like to see some displacement higher, because there isn't really any displacement in here. and there's these equal lows. So retail traders that are trying to buy a double bottom here, or maybe this bull flag or wedge, whatever you want to call it, their stops will be right here and here. So I'd prefer those to get ran out first. There is bullish SMT at this low on ES, but ES also has the equal lows here. So NQ and ES both have that same sell side. So I'd like to see that taken. Plus ES, if you look at ES, it hasn't moved up hardly at all compared to NQ. So I don't think this is bullish yet. Five-minute wick right here. That's looking nice. But again, I prefer it leave this high and generate more buy side here, come back down, generate buy side on the way down, and then at 12:30 we see displacement to come up to this. If it doesn't now, then if it doesn't now, I could see 12:30 being used to come back down to here. That looks nice. So this order block, the bodies stayed below the midpoint, reached up for the 5-minute wick here, failed to reach the midpoint of this wick, and now we're falling back down. So it could leave this high, and it's generating more buy side, and we'll come back down for all of these wicks here are all stacked up. This wick, that one, that one, that one, and this one. None of them are below the prior wick, so that's all going to be sell side. On, like, if you looked at a 5-second chart, that would be sell side all stacked up here. It needs to get below this inversion before. If we get a body closing below this midpoint, I'll be really confident in it coming back down for these lows here, and then this one here. We're just at the end of the 1150 to 1210 macro. 1210 being here. So this could easily be a swing high because it's being formed inside of the macro. So I could see this being a somewhat important swing high, causing at least a retracement into this range at a bare minimum. Best case scenario, again, for a long would be that it comes back down, forms more buy side, takes out this low, this liquidity pool here, and then around 1230, we see the move back up for the buy side here, and then anything else that was generated on that move down. That's not a horrible scalp. I mean, 1150 macro is here. We get the bodies closing above this inversion. It's used, and then it moves up for this buy side here. And then the order block, all within that 1150 to 1210 macro. So that's not a horrible scalp. But I'm not necessarily confident in this high yet. Okay, this body closed above that midpoint here. This could just be a sweep of this high before coming back down. And if it does end up taking this before 1230, I think 1230 could be used to come for these lows here. Looks like that might end up happening. Yeah, so I said in order for me to be confident that this will come back down into the range, a body needed to close below this midpoint, and that never happened. Except this little high here. I like all these stacked highs with the wicks. End of macros right here. Yeah, I think this is going to be a swing high, and we'll come back down into the range, because now that macro's over and we're displacing back down, and we took this little high, I think we'll come back down into the range. Hopefully it sets up more liquidity, more buy side. It's almost tempting to go short here, because I feel pretty confident that we'll take out all of these little lows, and these are pretty obvious. So now that we have a body closing below the midpoint and below the entire inversion, I feel pretty confident that these will get taken. And these are pretty stacked up here. And then that kind of leads you, it's like a trail leading all the way down to here. And I would say the only reason it closed above this midpoint and above this 5-minute wick and above this, the reason that happened was to take this liquidity here, to take out this high. Once this high is taken out, all of these should then be respected if it's going to be weak. And then it blew through all of them. Even here, it came up to this wick right there and then rejected off of it. Quick move through this, like it's not acting as support at all. So the reason that the candlesticks disrespected all of these levels was just to take this high. Once that was complete, they reclaimed their bearish characteristics. And now look at that. That's really nice. Use that as a reclaimed. Just touched it and then fell straight through these lows. So that's perfect. Whenever we were right here, I said a body needs to close below this midpoint, then I'll be confident in these lows. Body closes below the midpoint, comes up, touches this, and then falls through the lows. So that's pretty nice. Really weak. I honestly think that they're just generating a bearish sentiment before FOMC to get everyone short. And then I think FOMC will just rip it straight back up to the highs here. I think that's likely what will happen, especially because these highs here have been left behind. And if the market were to go into some sort of actual bear market, they're going to take it up to these highs first, because they're not going to allow retail traders that shorted this triple top to be able to capture an actual swing, significant swing lower. They're going to come up and take all that for themselves first. And then if it's going to go into a bear market, they'll do that first. So I don't really want to be leaning short. This was my short objective, best case scenario, and now that that's been met, there's no reason for me to be leaning short unless it's for some sort of obvious scalp, like down to here. Um, and I felt that these lows were pretty obvious to get taken. Getting into this 5 minute inefficiency. I think it'd be nice if we came down and took this out. I really don't think ES is going to leave these behind. I think it'll come down and take that. NQ probably will as well, but I'm really confident in ES doing it because ES is much weaker than NQ right now. Really want to wait for 12:30 before I think about going long. I could potentially see ES taking these lows and then NQ leaving them. But I'd prefer to see them taken out. Honestly, kind of tough. It could be that because we're not already down here, I would have preferred this to be down below these levels at 1230 and then see displacement higher. Because we're still above them and we just generated these lows here, wow. I could see 1230 coming down for these still. And I did mention if this high gets taken before 1230, it could 1230 could send us down to here, and we just generated more sell side right here. I don't really want to be leaning along until these lows are taken. So because it left that, and it's just about 1230, and we're clearly going to take this high. There it is. So maybe I want to be looking for short around 1230 for this liquidity here. Yeah, and technically, this daily for value gap is now an inversion for value gap. Um, Maybe I won't color it, but technically it's inversion because we've displaced below it. Uh, yeah, so I could see this coming back down to these lows for the lunch macro. And technically we have run this. Like that was my objective. 1130 ended up generating a low here, and then it just now ran that before 1230, and now that there's the sell side below the market, I think that was the buy side objective. And I think we could see 1230 just run back down for these lows. And we could key off of the inversion, the daily inversion for value gap. I would want this to become a reclaimed bearish for value gap. There's obviously this very large gap that we just formed. I want that to be a version. It was formed right before buy side was taken. Feels as though we might take this sell side here and then go take these highs for buy side. And then retail could view this as a bull flag breakout, but then the accumulation of shorts would happen here at the low of the inversion, and then we could come back down. Now it is 12:30, so would not be shocked if this came up above these highs and then used the low. And there's a bearish SMT on ES. And that sell side is way too clean down here. I think I would want to see this act as an order block right here and not go above that midpoint and then leave these highs. Just leave those for later. This goes really high. All the bodies stayed below this Wix midpoint, but we swept the high still. So either I'd want to get in above this high at the low, the daily inversion, or if it doesn't take these highs, I'd want to wait for displacement and then I close below the midpoint of this inversion. And then once that happens, I would have decent confirmation and then I could feel more comfortable having a stop above this high. But if the bodies are holding this midpoint, it could still come up to here. because this bearish for value gap is overlapping the low of this bigger one, I'm just going to get rid of it to keep it cleaner. I really like the idea of coming back down to these lows now. There's also this 5 minute for value gap that we've been working. Just going to quickly, just that midpoint right there. That's the high. So I see bodies closing below this midpoint. I feel like it could still come up above this high. Left this gap open. That's good. Body did not close below that, obviously. So nothing to do yet. Went to that 5 minute wick midpoint there. It would be interesting to see if this closes below this inefficiency, went up to that midpoint of the wick. If I pull up the 5 minute here, right there. So if the body closed away from this and it reached up for that wick's midpoint, and then we get displacement below this midpoint here, that would be really interesting, I think. But this midpoint is really important to pay attention to until it displaces below that. Not really interested in going short unless we're above this high. I like the idea of fading this bull flag. I mean, there's a bull flag right here, but then if you zoom out, doesn't look very bullish. But I think a lot of retail traders are going to be trying to buy the bottom here, buying the double bottom, triple bottom, uh, the cup and handle, whatever that is, the breakout of this bull flag. I think retail is going to try to catch the bottom here, and they've left a lot of really obvious sell side liquidity pools here. So I think we might break out above this bull flag and then come back down for these lows. ES tipped this high here. It'd be really nice if ES left these lows intact as well. Just use the midpoint of the wicks and then came up. That would just generate more sell side. I have to wait for the 1250 macro at this point. Yes, took those lows. I feel a lot more comfortable taking a short if these highs were taken, because at this point, we formed a lot of buy side here. I'd rather it come up and take this out first. Especially because ES still has this high in play. Hmm. Its first objective was met. That's really nice. But had you used the inversion, you may have gotten the full target, but this move down would have made it really challenging not to get stopped at break even or for a small profit. So, but that is nice that it did take that first buy side objective that I was wanting. So we got to close below the midpoint, but I really don't trust it because of these highs, especially these ones here. Um, it could save that for later. I do still like these as well. But best case scenario, it would have come up and taken these or done it quicker. I do like that 5 minute stops like that. Okay, some displacement, and then it closed below it. That's really good. Do I trust it enough to trade it? I don't know. Risk is pretty high. There's really nice displacement right at 1250. The odds of ES taking these lows are pretty good as well. I like the idea of, at a bare minimum, taking out these ones. I may not get filled. Be that on the next 5 minute bar. What time is it? So I got 2 whole minutes. We'll see. But preferably this 5 minute inefficiency stays open, at least partially. So the next candle, I'd like it to come up and just touch this inversion and then come back down and leave a portion of the inefficiency open and then go for the sell side. If it takes out these lows before filling me, I'm going to cancel my order because then the odds are much lower. So this new 5 minute is just about to open. I'd really like it to just retrace, touch the inversion, and then come straight back down for the liquidity. I don't want it to take the liquidity first. If that happens, I'm canceling the order. Looking like that's what's going to happen. Even if this wick gets traded below. Just going to cancel it. I would have preferred it trade into this first, but There's still the subjective, but it just becomes lower odds once this gets taken out. Because it could be that they soup this, and then they come up and run these highs here, and then leave all this for later. So but obviously I don't want this to be bullish anymore. I want that to be a reclaimed. Isn't it crazy that you can be correct on both sides of the market? I was correct on this high getting taken, and then I was correct on these lows getting taken, and I captured none of it, but I was correct, and I spent all of this time getting ready to take a trade, but then didn't ever take a trade. And that's just something that people that don't trade, they do not understand. Um, that it can be very challenging. Like you can be correct and not make money because I didn't get fill. I had an order placed here, and it just did not get filled. And then I had a really easy move down to this first objective here, and I waited all this time for it. And then the move up to here, it just didn't play out the way that I wanted for me to feel comfortable going long, but I was correct on that getting taken. And I was correct on this move lower. As soon as we got a body closing below this midpoint, it ran for this sell side. It just didn't offer me an entry. So this is the type of thing that could trigger taking bad trades. Because if you wait hours and hours for a setup, you're correct on the move, but you don't get to participate in the move. What happens is you start to feel like you need to make up for it, and then you'll take a bad trade, like a trade that doesn't make sense. And these, like, there's just so many complicated nuances and challenges that people that don't trade will never, ever, ever understand. And this is definitely one of them. Because at this point, I'd still like to see these lows taken, but getting in short right now does not make sense because it's too deep in discount to make sense. And even if it did come back up to here, there's this buy side, and it could run that and then save that for a later time. So at this point, nothing else really makes sense to me to take. It was kind of a challenging lunch macro. The way that it took this high was challenging. It didn't really displace above this inversion like I wanted, but it did close above it and use it like perfectly. That was a pretty easy move up to this high. But then we had this deep retracement. So if you were shooting for this one, this would have been really hard to stay in and not either take a small profit or a break even stop out. And then right before 12:30 they ran it. And then I even said if this gets taken before 12:30, I'd want macro to run the lows. And that's exactly what is playing out. Then this one, it just didn't offer a fill at the low of this. I don't really know how I could have traded this differently other than anticipating a short, but I was planning on doing that above this high, but it didn't offer that either. I was planning on looking for something up here short, but that wasn't offered either. So there's ES taking that lower one. ES did offer, well, no. No, it didn't, because this would be the equivalent inversion. It just ran straight through it. But this is kind of nice on ES because we have a break of structure here, right there, and then it comes up to this inefficiency and the high of the inversion and then runs below it. That's kind of nice. In Q a little harder to trade because it didn't get that break lower there, but I'd really like to see it just snap below these lows. And because we had such a huge move today, I'm not going to expect much more out of the market. Lunch macro ran buy side, and now it's running sell side. And the PM session at 1:30, I don't really know what it would want to do. It depends on what's left. There's this buy side here that was left, and then there's this low of day. But with the displacement here, like I don't exactly know or have a good idea of what it would want to do during the PM session, like after 1:30. But I guess I'll stay here and see if these lows get taken, because that would be nice. If I was shorting this, I would just take it off here because It probably will take this low. It's just it's spending a lot of time just sitting here, and I'd rather just take the guaranteed like $180 profit instead of the full 200 that might not get hit. Had I actually gotten filled up here, once this low got taken, I'd go to break even, and then right here, I'd want to just collapse the whole trade because that's good enough. What else I could do is like tighten the stop to right above this little Wix high right there. So then, I could still maybe get the full target, but then I'm locking in the vast majority. Plus, ES has already taken this low. So that's another reason just to get out right here. It touched it. That low is 994 even, and this low is 993 and 3/4. So it went one tick below that. So I would have been filled had I if I was filled up here. So definitely that's good enough. Yeah, if I zoom way in, you can see that little tick below. All right, so I called this lunch macro pretty much perfect. I remember right here, I said I would have preferred these get tagged first. But I wanted to see this buy side taken for the lunch macro. It got taken. I said that if it gets taken before 12:30, then I'd want to see 12:30 send it back down to these lows. It got taken at 12:26, and then 12:30 made this pivot high, and then we went lower down to this sell side. Literally went one tick below it there. So, and then I had a short placed right here, but it just did not get filled. And ES took low of day, so. Yeah. I like the buy side left here on ES. ES has a lot more obvious buy side that it left behind right here, here, and now here. Whereas NQ has kind of like tipped everything a little bit. Like this high got tipped there, this high tipped, this one here, but ES, whenever this bull flag was forming, there's this high. ES took that high out. I like that because retail traders will be buying above that high as a breakout. That never happened on NQ. NQ didn't take any highs during this bull flag. Had it done that, I would have felt more confident. But technically, because ES took this one, that's a bearish SMT on NQ. But pretty good lunch macro. It was a little challenging the way it was delivered, but it did deliver pretty nicely. And because of the extreme move down today, and because the lunch macro has met both my buy side and sell side objectives, I think I'm going to be completely done for the day because I really don't know I don't have a good idea of what the PM session is going to do after 1:30. So yeah, I think that's going to be it.